Good morning, good afternoon, everyone, depending on the location, wherever you are, from where you are attending this live session. My name is Richa, and I work as Education Support Manager at ACCA. And our session today is designed to support you with performance management paper. Definitely, you should be sitting these December 23 exams. So, here in this session, our expert tutor will share his insights to help you with your exam preparation. He will be covering exam tips, techniques, using technical examples, and giving you a chance to see how you can explore more on the paper or a topic on Study Hub as well. We will also be talking about the importance of mock and how you can utilize them during your exam practice. You will have an opportunity to ask your questions live. The experts will provide answers to the most asked questions from the students. I'm very pleased to be joined by expert tutor Steve Willis. Before I hand over to Steve, I would like to cover a few housekeeping items very quickly. At the bottom of your screen, there are a number of buttons you can use. There is a help icon on the left, which provides resources and information to help you resolve any technical issues you might experience. Icons for the slides and media player, you will need to see both of these during the webinar, so make sure you have selected them. Attendee chat function, so you can engage with fellow webinar attendees. Icon, that is the icon on the right hand side, and you may need that chat when you are responding to Steve also during the session. And there is a resource list icon that looks like a file symbol. If you click on this, you will be able to access resources which are very much relevant to today's webinar. And these resources include direct links as well. You can rearrange your screen to suit you and resize the windows if you need to. And if at any point you cannot hear what we are saying or you cannot see any visuals, please refresh your browser. Registering for this webinar means you will be sent an email tomorrow with details of how you can listen to it again. So don't worry, if you miss something or you have any technical issues, you will be able to access the recording as well. I'm going to hand over to Steve in a moment and will be back with you towards the end of the session. If you'd like to ask ACCA or Steve any question, then please click on Q&A button, which is the middle icon at the bottom of your screens. Please mind it, for any questions, write your question in Q&A box only. And note that we cannot guarantee responding to everyone directly, either verbally or via web chat, but we hope that our questions we share, the answers we give you will be helpful to everyone. So with this, handing over to you, Steve.
Thank you, Richa. Hello, performance management candidates. I'm glad you're here, and it's great that you're here. It means you are committed to getting a pass on the challenging performance management paper. My name is Steve. I'm delighted to be here with you. This is my busy teaching season, so I'm teaching all day, PM and some FM, and I'm happy to be here with you guys now. And I'd like to say thank you to my colleagues at ACCA. It takes a lot of work to put these webinars on. I have the easy part, just sitting here talking. There's a whole team behind the scenes making this happen. Guys, we're here because you want to get a pass. We have 1 hour. I want to be efficient with your time. Let us jump in, get down to business. We are here. You have career aspirations. You want to be at a certain place in the future, and the ACCA qualification is an amazing, amazing badge of the highest quality in finance and accounting to help you get there. But you have some challenging exams ahead of you. PM is one of the most challenging in applied skills. Guys, today we're going to do 3 things. I want to talk about tips on exam technique, exam approach. I want to talk about the importance of doing the mock exam. And of course, I'd like to take your questions. So that's what's going to happen. Now, question for you guys. Are you resitting? So click on the screen and let me know. I'd like to understand a bit more about the delegates here on our webinar. Everybody, please give me a click on that resitting button, please. Give you another moment. We're almost about half of you have done the click. Guys, keep going. Another moment. Another moment. All right. About 40% of you are resitting, 60% of you are new. Guys, if you are resitting, first of all, it happens. I had to resit financial reporting more than once, okay? So you will learn from your resitting experience and you will apply what you learned, turning a fail into a pass to your next papers. So if you are resitting, I have a special job for you today. I want you to reflect after this webinar, take notes during the webinar. I'd like you to decide what you are going to change about your approach, because something has not worked so far, okay? Remember, your resit is in the past. You are starting fresh. Team, quick exam tips. Let's rock. Guys, time management is really important in this exam, just as important as understanding the technical pieces of the syllabus. If you had 5 hours to do the exam, it would be much different, wouldn't it? So very important to practice time management early, as well as studying from your textbook, as well as practicing questions. You've got to be considering time. Now, let's do that in the framework of a game plan. Okay, successful athletes, they're working in a very pressurized environment like you guys. Now, I want to talk about 2 parts of the game plan. Exam day, right? When we're on the field, that's one aspect of the game plan. The other aspect is the preparation, okay? Now, you must rehearse the exam approach. In that exam, I want you to start in section A. Objective test questions. You're going to have 15 of them. Now, you are going to have laser focus. Laser focus. You watch the timer. 50 minutes, section A. I know what you're thinking. Steve, there's no way I can do all of that in 50 minutes. You don't have to do all of it. You got to get 8 out of 15. Okay, so your mission, move quickly through the section A questions and do 2 or 3 really easy ones that you've seen. Quote, easier ones. Maybe you see a theoretical question. Put the steps of target costing in the right order. Which of the following costs does not belong in the life cycle cost? You can do those quickly. As you pass through, you flag the more difficult ones, okay? Then you do a second pass through, and you want to focus on the medium level objective test questions, okay? When 50 minutes are up, hopefully you got through 11 or so. Maybe if you're really good, you got through 12. 3 difficult ones. Even if you had to leave 4 difficult ones till later, that's fine. Easy marks first. Flag the difficult ones. Now you move on at the end of 50 minutes. But you skip over B. Jump over to C, people. Now, you're going to see 2 questions in C. Check them both out. One of them, let's imagine, is cost, volume, profit. The other one, variance analysis. If you like decision making, do that one first, then go to the more difficult one. Always easy things first. Always to time. You give yourself 34 minutes per question, and do not ignore the written parts. Classic reason for a marginal fail. You put all of your effort into calculating variances, but there were 8 marks for evaluating the performance of the manager. I would do those evaluation marks first and then go on to the calculation marks. Okay? Doing a good job on the writing is the difference between a marginal fail and a marginal pass. 34 minutes per scenario. Now, when you're doing the actual requirements, you could go with 1.5 minutes per mark as a rough indicator of time management. So if you saw something for 10 marks, spend 15 minutes on that. Now, I'm speaking quickly. If you download the slides, I have my tips summarized as well in the PDF, okay? So pay attention, stay focused with me for the next 50 minutes, please. Lastly, you go to section B, and you treat each scenario as a separate mini project. 17 minutes per project. Okay? Quick scan of all of them. You do the easiest scenario first. You judge the difficulty by the topic that you see. Your learning curve jumps out. Budgeting jumps out. Okay? Transfer pricing jumps out. Now, I find that we have the biggest disparity in difficulty in section B. You get one question with 2 fill in the blanks. You get one question, it's a quick theory question. So the key to success in section B is easy marks first. You need 3 out of 5 per scenario. So you're not going to get all 5. If you can get 3 and try out number 4, you guess at 5 and you move on, okay, you're in good shape. Run out of time on difficult questions. So team, if you follow my approach, A, C, B, with the time that I mentioned, you are going to be left with nice buffer time. Now you are warmed up and you can go back to section A. I actually, a couple of times when I've simulated the exams, I was stuck in section A. I left it. I did B and C in the other order. And then my memory, oh, I remember what to do now. And I went back and then I was able to clean up another question or two in section A. Okay, that is the exam approach. With the buffer time, you go back to A, wrap things up. Okay, so it's like being a musician. Musicians practice with a metronome, okay? You are going to be practicing with a timer. And then it's also about rehearsing the notes, practice. I'm going to come to the practice part in a moment. Now, to summarize our game plan before the exam, you're going to practice the exam approach. I'll tell you where in a second, but you're also going to make a study plan. I want you to download this document. Right after the exam, I want you to put one syllabus area into every day. Every day, you've got to do a little bit. On work days, at lunchtime, you do a couple of section A's. In the evening, maybe you can do a section B. On the weekend, you do more, okay? In the final weekends coming up, every weekend, you should be doing a practice exam from the practice platform, and then you should do the mock exam, which I will tell you about. So part of rehearsal is, part of getting a pass is making your rehearsal plan, okay? Please do it, very important. Now, game plan for A and B. You will get a question objective test. You always, always, always start by reading the task. Never read the story first. Read the task. What do they want? After you do this, then in the scratch pad or on scratch paper, you must recall the formula or the template or the pro forma. So for break-even sales, we know that's the fixed costs in revenue, right? Not in units. In revenue, that's going to be the fixed costs over the CS ratio. Now, people, if you did not know how to solve that, it's going to be, if you just start reading, spoiler alert, the answer is not going to emerge from the story if you don't know that formula. So very important, you are practicing Section A questions from the study hub. Getting ahead of myself. Guys, step 1, read the requirement. Step 2, recall the formula. Step 3, you know what variables you need to find. Okay? Only now do you begin searching through the story, the little story, for the information. You must read very carefully. Every word, every number is there for a purpose. Okay? Some of it to be distractors to you. Okay? So you got to find the right pieces of information because we do not want units. We want money. And we find the sales revenue. We find the contribution. Oh, with that, I can get the CS ratio, couldn't I? Okay. And then I got a total fixed costs. Some people are going to be tricked by this and they think we only want the production fixed costs. That's absorption costing, not marginal costing. Okay. So that's one of the little tricks here, guys. And then we just do the work. Okay, team? That is the approach for Section A objective test questions. Read the story, read the requirement, write down the pro forma, make a shopping list, find the info, execute. Now, you've got to practice this, and the best place to do this is in the coolest thing since sliced bread, Study Hub. I'm using it on my courses now. If you use your ACCA number, you can get into the Study Hub and you have all of the chapters so you can top off your technical knowledge. But at this point, I recommend you get right into practice. They've got lots of objective test questions set up section by section. So you make your study plan, and then on that day, you come choose the topic, and then you can do 5 or so of these questions. Every day doing a little bit more, going around the syllabus, worrying about tomorrow, not about exam day. Okay? And look at this. Here's another question, just like the one we did, and you will use the same approach. Now, some questions are more difficult. If the numbers are written out with letters, if the numbers are in a big paragraph, that's a more difficult one. So I would, in the exam, I would do that later in the exam. Okay, team, those are some tips for Section A. Now, in Section C, you guys, you got writing, and do not forget the importance of writing. Roughly 50% of the marks in Section C come from the writing skills. So look at this. This is a classic. You're going to hit next. You're going to hit Section C, and you're going to see the verb discuss. They give you the verb discuss. They give you the word processor. That's a tip that writing here is more important than calculating. So very helpful thing here. Look at this. There are 7 marks for calculations, but they give you the word processor. 13 for discussion. What you need to do with this classic requirement, guys, what are we discussing? Financial and non-financial performance. 20 marks. That's the full 34 minutes. Okay? 7 marks for calculations. You are going to use the table tool to get amazingly organized, people, when you are evaluating performance. I want you to put 1 line for every mark for the numbers. Measure. What are we going to use for financial? We're going to pick up pieces from every exhibit here. They give you 2 or 3 little tables in the story. Try to use all of it, or try to use pieces from all of it. Okay? You show the working, calculate your result. Now, very, very important. They give you beautifully crafted stories. They're so nice. I read these stories to my children at night to put them to sleep. Of course, I'm kidding, guys. But you got to give it back to the examining team. Give them back the love. You have to, for every measure that you calculate, you got to say why it happened, how it happened, linking. Sales went up. That's a good sign. But why is it a good sign? What could be the cause of it? Maybe it's because prices dropped. Maybe we have elastic demand. Prices dropped, but they sold more, so revenue went up. So you got to build a discussion like that, people. Okay. Now, look at this one. Here's a discussion for 4 marks. Discuss whether the company should breach the agreement. Everything you write needs to be related to the story. And here you want to plan out your ideas. You got 4 marks, 4 ideas. So before you begin writing out your answer, come up with some headings. Now, maybe you cannot come up with all 4 ideas. Maybe you came up with 3 ideas. Look, I came up with 3 ideas. That's enough, right? 50% pass mark. Now, I craft my answer. I write several short sentences to try and develop a point. Or, 1 longer sentence that's a compound sentence. And look at this. I wasn't sure at the end, so I hedged my bets. I gave an overall comment. Sometimes there can be credit for that. We don't have the marking guide. We don't know in the exam, but I had time. I gave a overall comment. Guys, you can download the slides and you can check that answer out in more detail. You can see my writing style, very simple, very direct. You can see everything I say is linked to the story. And I'm trying to express judgment with every point. Okay, I'm trying to express some kind of judgment, should or shouldn't. Team, you're also going to see a spreadsheet in section C. Very important, you practice in the practice platform, not on scratch paper at home, not with your calculator. At this point, you should be in the practice platform. Even if you are working with a Kaplan or a BPP exam kit, you can use the blank constructed response workspace, okay? I was drawing a blank when I was trying to think of the constructed response blank workspace. Guys, worst case scenario, you don't have good internet. You could even practice in Microsoft Excel, okay? But you gotta also practice in the practice platform. But it's better than nothing, Excel, okay? It's pretty close. Now, what you do when you are in the spreadsheet, always lay out your steps. The marking team will grade you step by step. That is called the own figure rule. So look at this. I'm going for a production plan, profit maximizing production plan. So before I started, I laid out a table. I laid out my products. I laid out the info that I needed, right, to find if there's a shortfall or not. So step one is the shortfall, how much I need, how much we have. And then I go to step two. I make the production plan, always laying out my template before I begin. If any number is incorrect, you'll be penalized there. You won't get the credit, but it will be assumed correct when you go further. One student who gets a 48, they failed because of exam technique. They got hung up in the first step, wasted time. The student who got the 52 with good exam technique, they just tried something and kept it moving, knowing that this 3060 will be assumed correct whenever it's used again. Okay, guys? So you got to practice your step-by-step approach. Remember, the marking team will look into your cell. You do not need to show your workings. And always break big things into small things. If you have some big calculation, it's better to chunk it out into pieces. Show the marker your thought process piece by piece. Now, here's something that I picked up in an examiner's report. Sometimes you give comments in the spreadsheet. They might say, comment on your results. Don't cover anything up, because the markers cannot resize your cell, right? So make sure you can read everything. When you press next, and when your exam is done, the view that you have is the view the markers will have. Now, if they ask you to interpret your results, recommend what they should do, even if your figure is incorrect, if your interpretation makes sense, if you are interpreting your incorrect number, you will get full credit. Another reason you got to keep it moving. Okay? Guys, tools you need to check out after this webinar. If you have not been in there, Practice Platform, Study Hub. That's pretty much everything you need nowadays, okay? You got practice questions, you've got the technical knowledge all laid out for you. It's an awesome thing. YouTube, right? There's all these great resources out there. Now, if you haven't done so, you can check out my YouTube videos. And I really love PM. PM is the main focus of my videos, and I have many question debriefs there, and everything you need to know about exam technique is also there. So if you want to see more spreadsheet, you can go to my YouTube. You can go to the ACCA's YouTube, which has amazing stuff there. Okay? And you also must do the mock exam. Guys, mock exam is a ticket to success. I told you before about the importance of rehearsal. Mock exam is like the dress rehearsal for actors or for the orchestra 2 nights before. Plan it in your study planner now. You must block out 3 hours. Find a quiet space. Don't take the shortcut of saying, oh, I'm going to do section A at lunchtime. I'm going to go for a jog. Then I'll do section C. No, you've got to simulate the stress, the time pressure, the exhaustion. okay? Make sure you're in a quiet place. Use noise-canceling headphones if you are in a loud place, okay? And you press next when you're all done, and you can self-mark by going to the marking tab. You got to manage the time, though, on your own. The exam will not time out at the end of 3 hours, right? So you've got to run a countdown timer, maybe from your phone. But have your phone turned off. Don't be looking at YouTube. Don't be chatting with your friends. Now, if you want to know more about exam technique, we made the coolest debrief videos. We've been doing it for years. This one put a lot of love into it. Every exam tip about exam technique is captured in the videos, okay? So you've got to watch the debrief videos. We take you through the most difficult ones in section A, in section C, in section B. Everything I talked about is right there, okay? So put that in your planner. Guys, continuous improvement. Start now. Follow a study plan, a little bit every day. Maybe next weekend you do practice exam number 1. Of course, you won't get a pass. Of course, you won't finish it in the time. But after the time is up, you can keep working on it. Then you try practice exam 2. Then you rock the mock. Rock the mock. Hey, Richard, that's my new slogan. Rock the mock. All right. Guys, you have questions. I have answers, I hope. Steve, what's the meaning of life? Can't help you on that one right now, but I can help you with these. How can I manage my exam stress? Guys, most oftenly asked question, guys, 3 things. You want to do what professionals who work in stressful jobs do. Policemen, firefighters, first responders. Simulation, right? They do lots of simulation. You need to do simulation, mock exam, practice exams, okay? Second thing you guys need to do is make that study plan. You want to focus on small incremental improvements, okay? Do not focus on the exam, okay? That's right. The exam is still, about a month away, give or take. We can accomplish a lot in a month. Just worry about the task at hand. All you have to do is execute what you put into your study plan for tomorrow. Is it do 1 OT question, 3 OT questions? So do that. Now, so you manage your stress before the exam by rehearsal, like first responders, by making a study plan. When you're in the exam, you don't focus on passing the exam. In section A, you focus on getting 8 out of 15. That's all you got to do. Oh, look, 2 of them were kind of easy theory questions. Another 3 of them, I'm pretty confident I was able to do it. Okay, now there's a couple tricky ones here, but I've rehearsed. I'm going to do my best. I'm going to eliminate a distractor. I talk about that in the debrief video, how you can eliminate some of them. Okay, so try to eliminate. Then at the end, you guess on a couple. It happens. Then you go to section C, laser focus. All I have to do is get 10 out of 20. Let me do a good job on the writing. Oh, I got 6 out of 8. Let me go to the spreadsheet. Let me do my best. Oh, wow, I can get 12 marks. Okay. Then you go to section B. 3 case studies, laser focus, 1 at a time. You need 3 out of 5 each time. Don't worry about passing the exam. Worry about each section as a separate project. Stay in the present. Do not worry about things you cannot control. You can control what you're going to do tonight, what you're going to do tomorrow. I hope. I hope we can, right? Who knows? Um, let's hope we can do that. And then if we can't control something, we make plans for it, but we don't worry, right? So the best thing you can do, grab control of your time, make a study plan, block out your free time, make sure you're doing stuff every day. I must sound like a broken record. Are you guys getting sick and tired of me talking about making a study plan? Well, I'm doing so because it's important. Anyway, that's how you manage your stress. Do you need to show calculations? Guys, in the spreadsheet, the calculations are in the cell. Don't show it. In the word processor, if you have a mistake, if your figure is wrong, you'll get no credit if the marketing team cannot see your workings. If you show your workings, it's possible to get partial credit. Okay, so my approach, I like to lay out my workings and then do it with the calculator. Okay, that's what I do. But if you're in a rush, if you're running out of time, just do that gross profit margin. It's not a hard calculation. You're probably going to get it right, okay? Even if you got it wrong and you interpreted it correctly, you're going to get the write-up marks, which are more than the calculation marks. So to summarize, spreadsheet, no. Word processor might be a good idea. No scratch paper on the remote exams. If you are doing remote exams, very important. You must practice in that environment. Don't use your paper book for practicing. Use the study hub. You're studying off of the screen. Try to simulate, right? Study hub in the left, Word notepad in the right for your workings, okay? But guys, of course, at the beginning of revision, yeah, you might need some scratch paper, right, to organize your thoughts. In the last couple of weeks, use that approach, but no scratch paper at remote exams. Is there a way to add commas in the spreadsheet? Guys, you add commas by formatting. There's a format button, but there are no marks for formatting. Okay, so don't stress overly about formatting. Always good to be professional, and it's also nice for your own eyes to be looking at a well-formatted document. Okay, so why not format it? Takes a moment, but it's not going to help you get extra credit. The marketing team's not going to say, "Oh, look, this guy got a 49. Oh, but they used bold. Oh my goodness, look at the headings. Yo, Johnny, Jane, come over here. Look at this guy. This is the most beautiful spreadsheet I ever saw." Let's give him a mark. No, that's not going to happen. Don't worry about formatting, okay? Tables are an awesome tool in section C. When you are doing a big question like relevant costing, 14 marks, read the big story. There's a bunch of things in that story. Tables keep you organized. Tables help you with the time management. Tables keep you on track, but it's not required, okay? I think it's a good idea for big requirements. For a small requirement, evaluate if the company should go forward with the outsourcing, 5 marks. Paragraphs are good in that situation. Guys, if your numbers are wrong and you interpret them correctly, you get full credit on anything that you say as long as you are interpreting your incorrect number properly. Okay? So if sales are dropping from your incorrect calculation, you say this is a problem, you get marks for a discussion of why it's a problem. You know what? You will not have to draw any graphs. All of the materials, they have you draw the graphs. It's a legacy thing. When I did the exams, they actually gave us graph paper, and we would have to draw the graph. You won't have to draw the graph, but you will have to interpret somebody else's graph. And I think someday you're going to get a question that says, the junior accountant made the graph, find the mistakes. So it's a good idea to draw all of the graphs at least once. But after that, focus on interpretation. Okay, what does the graph tell us? And also, very important with graphs, an easy way to make a question on a graph is to make you pick it apart and explain what every line is, what every point is. So yeah, be able to explain what any graph means to your grandmother, right? That's the proof that you understand something well. Guys, over to you. Richa, I will now open up the folder and see what questions our brilliant performance management candidates have. I'm a little bit nervous. What questions have they asked me? Have asked us? Let me, I found my questions here. Let me look through it. All right, first question, how can we manage studying for 2 exams? Quick answer. You got to choose one of your exams as your main exam and one of the exams as the bonus exam. And you got to make a study plan, and you've got to make sure you're focusing first on main exam. Extra time goes to bonus exam. If time is getting tough and you're really stressed, you're going to have to focus on main exam, and then do what you can with bonus exam. Don't let bonus exam give you a fail on main exam. So it's about time management. If you're still thinking about that now, it's a little bit late. You should have planned that earlier, because it's going to be a lot of work for 2. I wouldn't dream of doing PM and financial reporting if I was fully, I did my exams when I already had a job. There's no way I could have pulled that off. Okay. I was a risk seeker, though. I did do 2 exams, but I would do like a wordy one. I would do audit maybe with PM. Okay, but I don't want to get into that now. Short answer is yes, you can do 2. You need a plan. You need to manage your risk. You need risk management. Guys, give me a minute. I'm scanning through the questions. Guys, I want to talk to a resitter right now who's stuck on 48. Guys, I want to give you resitters who are stuck on 48 some tough love, okay? The common question that we ask ourselves, oh, I got a 48. My question for you is, you were in there for 3 hours. You had 3 hours to get 2 more marks. What happened? Well, come on, 2 marks. Guys, if you are resitting at a marginal fail, it's a 100% exam technique issue. If you had given the written part just a little bit more love, if you had in section C eliminated a couple of distractors before you did your guessing, if you had in section C in the spreadsheet, you weren't sure about one working, but you just chucked a number in there and you kept going and you used that assumed number, you would easily have found another 2 marks. Or in section B, if you just had a more laid back attitude about section B and you said, I only need 3 out of 5 to get a pass in section B, each one of these. So I'm going to do my best on 3 when 17 minutes are up. If I can scoop up a 4th one, great. I'm going to guess at everything. I'm going to go get more easy marks. So guys, the short answer, resitters, it's about marginal fail. It's about exam technique. You got to be really rehearsing. You got to be in the practice platform doing questions at this point. Check the mock debrief videos for more exam technique help. Check the ACCA YouTube for more tips. Now, if it's a chronic problem, you need professional help. I recommend you do a paid mock exam, and you could get feedback, okay, from a professional marker. That's what you need to do if it's a serious chronic problem, like going to the doctor. Okay. Let's keep reading. Is the Study Hub, the practice platform, enough? In my opinion, it is enough. Okay. In my opinion, the Study Hub has what you need. It has the knowledge in the chapters part. It has the practice questions. It's all there. But the books from the approved providers, they're also pretty awesome. And one thing about studying, though, it's nice, when we're learning something new, it is nice to change the medium, right? So I don't want to look at the screen for 5 hours. It's also nice to look at a paper. So those are still okay, all right? But if you're on a tight budget and you don't have it, or if you're resitting and you have an old book, or you borrowed someone else's books from a couple of years ago, I would rather you go use the updated Study Hub practice platform. Question about the technical articles. People, technical articles, those have been around a long, long, long time. When I was doing my exams, check me, I sound like a grandfather, right? That's kind of feeling old right now. Oh, when I was your age, oh, we didn't have calculators. No. Guys, we definitely did not have all of this online stuff. None of it, except for technical articles and examiners' reports and past exams. Technical articles, that is a vast library of very well-written deep dives into the topics. I recommend a technical article if you're really stuck on something, but you do not need to read every technical article. If you understand transfer pricing, you don't need to read the technical article. But guys, when we say technical articles, it's not just about the old knowledge ones. There's also great videos now, technical video articles on exam technique. Read The Mind of the Marker is an awesome technical article. Okay, so I recommend your first stop is the exam technique technical articles. And you can figure that out quite easily, okay, when you go in there. And that's a good thing to look at when you are exhausted from question practice. So you can change up your perspective by looking at some of those, okay? Here's a question about exam technique. Can we write each point under headings, or do they have to be in paragraphs? What I want to say here, everything that you write, it should be structured. If you are looking for 4 written marks, you are crafting 4 separate ideas. If you are communicating an idea, if you are discussing something or assessing performance of the company with financial and non-financial KPIs, you got to use full sentences. Never use sentence fragments, people. Do not communicate in sentence fragments unless the verb is briefly outlined. but that doesn't really come up. I can't even think of when that came up, okay? So you got to use full sentences. Back to your question, do they need to be in paragraphs? Well, a paragraph is a group of connected short sentences. So I recommend you block out your ideas in groups of short sentences, which become small paragraphs, okay? Or if you're making your point in a compound sentence with using conjunctions, and also, that's also going to work, okay, guys? Now you can block out your work as paragraphs or as cells in your table, right? If you have a list of things, column 1 is the item, the next column is your write-up, okay? How do I properly study for Section A questions? Well, one thing that you can do, you know that Section A, it's going to test the theory, right? And when you are studying and practicing questions, they do not give you like random junk distractors. So if they're asking you about the benefits of activity-based budgeting, every item in there should be like kind of reasonable. So they're going to give you, benefits from other things. So a great way to study for Section A. Don't be in a crazy rush to do every single one. You won't be able to. But always when you are done, why were the wrong answers wrong? And what question would make them right? And this is especially true when you are doing the questions in the practice platform. Those ones come from the real past exam questions, so they're written by the same examining team, okay, that wrote yours. However, if you're using like an unapproved publisher's Section A questions, they've not been proofread and tested to the same degree as the real ACCA questions. So you got to take those ones with a grain of salt. So Section A, you're always checking the wrong answers. What would make them correct? And the next thing that you can do, after you've done a Section A question, well, we have time. You could come back to it, a week later and try it again and see if it made sense without any notes, right? Without your notes. So you could come back to it. Is not a bad thing. See if you remember, because that's also learning. You're recalling the form. This is the one about break-even point. All right, that's the formula where we need the weighted average contribution to sales rate. This is the one where we make packages. I remember this. So then when you see it again, a multi-product weighted average, you're going to be able to do it. You'll be better prepared to do it. That's how I study for Section A. Guys, someone is asking about how similar is PM and APM. We're not even going to talk about APM. I will be very, very happy when your problem is APM, but it isn't. So worry about next month. One thing I want to say about APM, there's a lot of assumed knowledge. Budgeting and the management accounting techniques, activity-based costing, target-based costing, the ratios, return on investment, residual, that stuff's all assumed knowledge. So I think APM is an awesome paper. So if you are unsure about your options, don't throw away your PM books yet. You're going to need them. Okay, guys? Someone here is feels bad. Is it okay to feel like what you have studied 2 weeks ago you forgot? Formulas and pro formas. Guys, that is part of the learning process. We're always, stressed out. This is a professional exam, first of all. It's not an academic exam. So it's time pressured. Guys, we have jobs. But it is normal to feel like you forgot things. It's normal to feel like you're confused. I want you to remember, if you make a study plan and you execute that study plan and you do so in the context of past exam questions, you're going to start feeling that, oh, the stuff that you're now confused about is new. The stuff that I was confused about last week, I kind of know. But if you're feeling, if you are feeling like you're forgetting the pro formas and the templates, you should be studying things in clusters, right? So you're going to study modern management accounting. When you're studying, you want to learn those templates. It's good to make a mind map out all of the templates for modern management accounting. So you need the template for target costing, for throughput accounting ratio. Focus on that for a while. Then you can go on to the templates for decision-making or variance analysis. So put those templates in clusters, memorize them with mind maps, guys. Guys, we are about out of time. I have time for one more question. Let me pick a goodie. Here's a question. I'm going to take two more. Here's a quick question. In section C, when you're evaluating performance and they give you the word processor, can we open Excel? No, you cannot. It's not like the strategic professional. You can open what you want. They give you what they give you. You could go forward and borrow a spreadsheet, but that's going to be a lot of work to write down all of those figures on scratch paper. I wouldn't do that. I would only do that for one easy objective test question, like learning curve. I would jump ahead and use a spreadsheet for an OT question. I wouldn't do that for 20 marks. Borrow the spreadsheet and then copy that in. The copy paste won't work either, I'm sad to report. At this last question, guys, at this point, would you recommend practice or also go through the textbook? This is an individual question. I would recommend, though, you can learn a lot by doing questions. So it's very important, no matter what, to be in the past exam questions now. So you got to be, if you feel like you haven't learned, if you study something, if you study limiting factors, you immediately go into the study hub and do questions. Don't just read it like a book. Oh, I've read it. Oh, let me read the next thing. No, you read, you do questions. Now, if you've already done some reading, there's no reason you couldn't jump into 5 OT questions, right? Do some questions, and then write down what you got wrong and only go back and study what you got wrong, okay? So you could flip learning. Try questions and study what you didn't know. Guys, I'm out of time. I've got to run back to my course and work with my guys here. I had a wonderful time working with you guys. Richard, are you going to come back on and say goodbye to our friends?
Yes, Steve. Thank you so much for today's session. But before we end up, I just have 2 concerns from the students, which I have marked up with myself. One is that one student had mentioned this in the very beginning, but I thought to pick it up towards the end, that the student has completely studied the syllabus, but what if I start panicking in the exam and what if I am not understanding what the question is being asked. So can you just give them a quick tip, like how to
Yes,
deal with
yes.
that particular moment?
You handle the panic like policemen and firemen handle panic, by simulation, by practice, by rehearsal. You rehearse before. When you're in the exam, all you think about, you stay in the present. Right now, you're doing section A. You got to find 8 of them. That's all you got to worry about. Then you go to section C. So you stay in the present to manage the stress, and you rehearse. Richard, what was the second part of the question?
Yeah. Okay. Second
The
part of
second
the
part
same
was what?
question. Yeah. Okay. What if I'm not understanding what the question is being asked?
All right, if you're not understanding what the question is asking, if you are in section C, you make an assumed answer, you state your assumption. Okay, that's going to let the markers know that whatever you put there, they're going to use that going forward, and you will get credit for it. Okay, even if it's wrong. If you just sit there thinking, oh my goodness, what did they mean? Boom, 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 what did they mean? Okay, now, but if you're in section A and you're in section B, if you don't know what they mean, maybe you didn't practice enough questions, because if you're practicing approved questions, and if you've been through the practice platform, you've been through the real exams, so you've seen all of the language. But yeah, it could come up that you don't know a term in section A or C, so you'll have to do your best there. Okay, but I think practicing real exam questions will reduce that risk.
Yeah. That's right. So very quickly, just one more before we end up the session. This is from marginally, one of the marginally failed students. So the worry is that he has scored pretty fine marks out of 60 in section A and B, and again few marks in section C. But again, the total has come up to 47. So quite worried that where should they focus? Actually, they should focus right now because they are going to sit the PM exam again in December. So if someone is facing such a scenario, how they should
I'm
work
sorry,
upon learning.
I didn't quite understand the scenario. We don't know where the problem area is. Is that what it is?
Yeah, so the student has mentioned, like for example, in section A and B, he has scored 34 out of 60 and 13 marks in section C. So the total that still doesn't come up to 50. So now where he should actually focus on while doing the next preparation for his exams. Any tip for the marginally failed
I'm
you would
sorry, I'm
like to
just not.
mention?
Did they fail a specific section of the exam, or all the sections got to fail? What's the
That's not very
significance of
clear
those
for me.
numbers? I guess I have to write it down.
Yeah, 34 out of 60 in section A and B, and 13 in section C.
Well, section C has 40 marks, so you got to focus on section C. It seems like you're good with the OTs. So I would focus on section C, because you're passing in section A and B, and the problem there seems to be section C. So I would just focus on past exam questions, exam technique. If you're resitting so many times, you know the knowledge. I'm sure you know it, okay? So definitely carefully check the debrief videos from the mock exam. Check out the ACCA resources for the question debriefs. Check out my YouTube. There's a lot of resources out there to show you exam technique. But that's what you got to focus on.
Thank you, Steve. So quickly, we need to bring things to a close, and I hope that students have found today's webinar very useful. Before I end up, I would like to mention whatever resources we have talked about in the webinar, they are already available on the platform. Please download all the links with yourself, keep a copy of them, and the debrief webinar will be released on 17th November. Just 5 days before that, that is 13th November, mocks will be live. 17th, videos will be live. Links are all available in the resource section. Do have a copy of them. And remember, everyone who has registered for this webinar today will be getting an email with details how you can listen to this again, or you can also use the same registration link to watch the recording later. So a big thank you to Steve and the team who supported us in delivering this session successfully, and also to you all for your participation. Wish you all the very best for your exams. Thank you.
Good luck, everyone. You can do it. Stay focused.